I present to you the thrilling conquest of Pokemon Infinite Fusion. This is a Pokemon fan game featuring over 200,000 Pokemon combinations. It holds a special place in my heart, and my extensive Pokemon background adds a layer of expertise to the narrative. Every new run introduces a brand new unique blend of Pokemon, ensuring a consistently refreshing experience. Today, we embark on the challenge of a hardcore Nuzlocke in Pokemon Infinite Fusion. The rules are pretty clear cut. A Pokemon's defeat results in it being boxed, which means it's officially considered dead. The level cap is determined by the next gym's ace Pokemon. Active items are off limits. Set mode is the sole mode in play, and only the first Pokemon encountered in every new area is eligible for capture. Before we dive into this meticulously planned run that devoured hours of preparation, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like if you like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement significantly boosts the YouTube algorithm, and your support is genuinely invaluable. Only 0.4 of you guys are actually subscribed to the channel, so if you could subscribe, that would be so good. It would help prove my mummy wrong and that I actually can be a YouTuber. So, enough of my shameless pleas, let's just jump right into the adventure. So here we are in Professor Oak's lab. We've just been smashed down by our rival with an amazing Fusion X-Teeny. Absolutely was not going to beat that. We had to go into the wild and find our first find, a Tyrogue. Of course, we are capturing that for our capture of Route 1. We capture a Horsey from Route 22, and we catch a Swinub from Viridian Forest. And then finally, we catch a Riolu on Route 2. And with those Pokemon, we are ready to verse Brock. But first, we gotta do some fusions. Our Charmander and Horsey create Charsey. Riolu and Tyrogue fuse into Riorogue. And now it is on to Brock. Brock sends out this Sluglia. So it is a Psychic and Fire type, but of course it loses to a Water Gun. Out comes Torchfring, and again, Water Gun will take it out so easily. Just like that, Brock is defeated. So before we go to Mount Moon, we're stopped by the scientist who tells us that in this patch of grass there are some Pokemon with special abilities. We find a Dratini, and we catch that thing immediately. And we decided to fuse it with our Swinub, creating our own very special Swintini. Turns out up at Mount Moon there are some thugs inside. I wonder who they might be. I suspect it might be Team Rocket, but who knows? Brock tells us to go in and fix the problem, and we do, but before that we do pick up a magic cart for $500. And we catch a Curlier in Mount Moon, and we fuse that with our Magikarp, creating Magalia. Back in Mount Moon, here we are stumbling upon the triple fusion. Of course, Giovanni isn't very happy with that, so he tells us to f off. And we have to verse the poor little scientist who's been put against us. They send out Sweebass. However, against our Switini with Dragon Rage, it stood no chance. We see a Dino, and we capture it. Charsey decides to evolve after a few more battles, and we have been given this amazing Charsey. Actually no difference. Magalia decides to evolve as well now that we've got it up to level 20, and we get Gyaralia, starting to look very cool. Riorogue decides to evolve one time into this amazing Lucorogue. But then Lucorogue decides to evolve one more time, and we are given Lucalee. Absolutely amazing looking Pokemon. And with that, it is time to destroy Misty. Misty sends out Ninrith, which by the way, looks like it might be weak against fire. It's not actually weak to it, but it is taking significant damage, and it received a critical hit. We are not sweating at all, taking it out with another Ember. Out comes this other Pokemon. We're seeing how much Ember does, and it doesn't really do that much. So we swap to our Water Gun, and by God it did its damage, and with the burn, it took it out. And now that we've beaten Misty, it was time to go up Nugget Bridge, but of course we have to verse our rival Ganon. Ganon sends out Beltortle. Our Swintini has Dragon Rage, which for you that don't know, it does an instant 40 damage every time. So at a low level, it's actually kind of OP because we don't actually have that much health. Unfortunately, Axner actually takes out our Pokemon with a Dragon Rage, which is a real shame because that was our damage dealer. So this Axner is quite a threat. I do an Aura Sphere to do significant damage and a quick attack to quickly take it out. Out comes his Pokemon Mists, which I can only imagine is a ghost type, so I have to swap out. So I swap out to Charsey. I get hit by a Psy Wave doing very little damage. My Bubble Beam doing all its health in one shot. Out comes a Bidchar, which looks really creepy. But again, a single Bubble Beam will take it out. Having defeated our rival, we went all the way out through Nugget Bridge and decided to go help Bill, who had turned himself into a Pokemon, the idiot. He thanked us for his help and he gave us the SSN ticket. But before we went over to the SSN, we went to Route 24 to go pick up a Togepi. Togepi quickly evolved into Togetic, and I decided to fuse it with my Dino, which I caught earlier in the game. Now the reason I needed this was because I needed a Fairy type to combat that stupid Pokemon that our rival has that can use Dragon Rage. thereby giving us some immunity. I also caught a Houndour and a Sandshrew, and then decided to go get a fishing rod so I could go catch another Pokemon in the water. I found a Solasis and decided that had to be mine as well. I decided to fuse my Solasis with my Sandshrew, creating a fairly cursed looking Pokemon, this little Sandsis. I decided to fuse my Houndour and a Shuppet together, creating an equally ugly Pokemon, and it decided to evolve shortly thereafter, giving us this amazing little hound pet. Sandsis decided to do the same, evolving into this brand new Sandsis. Back on SSN, I was going up to the captain's room, but again, our rival decided to interrupt us. So, okay, we will challenge him once again. He sends out a Bulplava, which is actually pretty cool. Our Bubble Beam doing over 50%, and we're feeling pretty good about this. However, we're hit with a Sleep Powder and then a Razor Leaf, but unfortunately for him, the Razor Leaf didn't do much, so we just woke up and took it out. Out comes a Meowfrisk. Meowfrisk uses Fake Out to get a quick hit and interrupt us. However, look at our Bubble Beam, it is again doing so much damage against these Pokemon. And out comes Manix, which I honestly think is the ugliest looking Pokemon. It's a Marchop in drag, really. Anyway, we took that out, and out comes this scary Pokemon Fraxnare. So we send out Togeno with the Fairy typing, so we're not going to be hurt by Dragon Rage. But we can Dragon Rage him. So that's what we do. We just do 2 shots and we take out this terrifying Pokemon. And with that we have defeated our rival, got HM cut and moved on to Surge. Surge decides to send out Delibuskin, which I think is one of the cooler looking Pokemon. Unfortunately it is both, it is ice and a fighting type, so it goes down hard to a Force Palm. I Force Palm Milwrath as well, which again looks amazing. It's got its adders and it's shooting milk at itself. Ooh and cool. And out comes his last Pokemon, a little Belu. Again, 4 times weak against fighting. Our Lucali is having a bloody field day. We find a Geodude on Route 10 and catch it. Now I want to do this Geodude because I know we have to go up against that Molkuno, and I'll need a Pokemon that is really good at taking out flying types. We also caught a Krabby and allowed our Giralea to evolve into this amazing looking Giravois. That head is scary, I agree. Anyway, we go up into the Pokemon Tower, but are interrupted by our rival once again, the King of Interruptions. So Ganon sends out his Pokemon Rechoke, and we send out our Lucali. We use a Force Palm to do some significant damage, but are hit by a pretty decent attack. Nevertheless, we are able to take it out with one more attack. Draferno comes out looking pretty cool, clearly a Chimchar and a Dratini fusion. Our Bone Rush doing significant damage, hitting twice. Twister does nothing to us, but a Super Potion does come up, giving him a lot of health. Nevertheless, we are able to take it out with a few more hits. Now out comes the terrifying Fraxnare. We send out our Togeno, which of course does not get hit by dragon moves. So he is forced to use False Swipes, doing very little damage. And for whatever reason, he decides to use a Scary Face, allowing us to get one more hit off and securing the win. Ganon sends out this Metacross, which is a Steel type, so I obviously had to swap out into my Hound pet. I gave him a Will-O-Wisp to burn him, therefore reducing his damage by 50%, and then killing him off in one shot. And just like that, we have beaten Ganon again. Turns out the old man is actually the creator of the Master Ball, and Team Rocket are harassing him for the patent to make other Master Balls. But before we go teach Team Rocket a lesson, we had to go catch this Gibble that we found on Route 8. Having caught the Gibble and then moved over to Cerulean City, we went down to the sewers, where we found our rival actually talking to some Team Rocket grunts. Thinking he would actually try help us, I got a little excited thinking we might pair up and actually try beat some Team Rocket grunts, but no, he left. Luckily, we do have a lovely woman called Erica, and she decides to come help us instead of battling us like the gym leader she is. Once inside the sewers, our Charcy decided to evolve into Charcy, and Sandis decided to evolve into Sancion. We defeated all the Team Rocket grunts and moved our way up to Giovanni. Giovanni sent out a Mush Top and a Luca Jr. I used a Will-O-Wisp on the Mush Top to reduce his physical damage, and Hex him, doing twice the damage because he does have a status condition. Marshtop does a Rock Slide, doing very little damage to our entire team, but does actually take out his friend. Fantastic. Out next comes this Hitmonraid. Looks pretty cool, obviously a Roserade and a Hitmonchan. However, a Zen Headbutt comes out and takes it out immediately, leaving just this poor little Luca Jr. alone against us two. And our Xyloom Zen Headbutt takes it out, clenching the win against Giovanni. With Giovanni licking his wounds, we head back to the old man to pick up the Poké Flute, before quickly rushing back to Cerulean City to go verse Erica, the gym leader. She sends out this pretty cool looking Hortkazam. Now I was getting a little worried because I don't actually have all that much to defeat ghost types. So what I decided to do was spam Calm Mind and become this ridiculously overpowered beast. With my special attack and my special defense raised really high, I really wasn't going to take that much damage and give out quite a lot. Obviously using Psychic against some Ghost and Psychic types wasn't doing a lot of damage, but it was doing enough. I took out his Pokemon and had to verse this new Volca Edge, and Volca Edge disappeared in 2 shots of Psychic. Kofragul was no different really. I used a Psychic almost doing 99% of its health. It did a guard split, but what does that really do? I used Psychic and took it out. And just like that, we defeated Erica. Now that Erica's out of the way, it was time to go after a Snorlax. I caught the Snorlax immediately because it is going to be a tanky bloody Pokemon. I also found a Solotl, which I decided to catch very quickly, and then I decided to move over to Fuchsia City and go up into the Safari Zone. In Area 1, I found a Vulpix and I caught that. In Area 2, I found a Sunflora. In Area 4, I found a Shieldon. And in Area 5, I found an Exeggutor. And then my Charger decided to evolve. And it gave me this awesome looking Charger. But now, it was time to verse Koga. He sends out a Golmagius, which looks pretty cool and did some decent damage to my Houndpet. However, my Hex was able to take it out almost immediately. Gentops comes out and oh my god, look how cool that looks. That is a terrifying Pokemon if I've ever seen it. I do a Will-O-Wisp to get the damage off and as well as reducing his physical damage against us. However, he does get a Shadow Ball taking out our poor little Houndpet, which means goodbye Houndpet, you are now in the box forever. I send out my Giravoir, an absolutely amazing Pokemon. It does Psychic, doing very little damage and gets hit by a Confuse Ray. However, Burn is doing significant damage, and I thought to myself, while the burn is taking you down slowly but surely, I'm going to use my Carmine and start stacking up a sweep again. So I use Carmine over and over again, Shadow Ball doing less and less damage, and then he keeps on getting hurt by Black Sludge and Burn. So this was actually a very easy fight. And just like that, Gentops is down, and out comes Romagius. Romagius doesn't really have that much against me because I've stacked up my special attack and special defense. See, I'm taking very little damage from Ominous Wind, and it goes down in 2 hits. Sharptooth comes out, falling immediately to a Psychic. And just like that, we have defeated Koga. We quickly went into the PC and decided to fuse our Gible and our Snorlax, creating this amazingly tanky Pokemon. Giblax decides to evolve one more time, hoping it would be an amazing looking sprite. I was sad because it was a Gablax and it was bloody ugly. I went to Silphco and decided to try and beat out Giovanni. Unfortunately, our rival decided to battle us and he sent out a Sandbat. Sandbat, looking pretty cool but not really that cool, falls to a Brian. Joltlord comes out, this amazing looking Jolteon Wailord Pokemon. Like, I can only imagine how electrifying that might be in the water. So we send out Sansion, because it is a ground type and does have immunity to electric type moves. We use Magnitude as it's super effective a couple of times to do some significant damage. Joltlord falls, and out comes this Tentadon, which I have to say, it looks so cool, but I'm just loving the artwork there. And it does do a lot of damage. My Sansion doesn't really do that much, and I have to swap out, otherwise I will lose him. So I send out my brand new Gablax. Gablax has rough skin and leftovers, so he's a tank sustain with Body Slam, which can actually paralyze on hit. So I'm laughing here. I have the tankiest Pokemon with the best sort of sustain and damage. Their Pokemon goes down and I'm feeling pretty good. Out comes Fraxnare, this bloody Pokemon that I always have to fear. So I have to send out my Fairy type. Go, Togeno. I use a Dragon Pulse doing decent damage. Then he does a Dragon Dance, getting ready to set up on me. I do not let that happen, do another Dragon Pulse and get the win. He then sends out his little Ninmander. Ninmander does a Swords Dance, again trying to set up. So I use a Dragon Pulse doing decent damage, and I do it again, doing even more. And he speeds through, and at this point he's much quicker than me, so I decide to sacrifice our Pokemon Sansion. Get an RIP in the comments for Sansion, that poor little thing. So I send out Lucali in order to do a quick attack to outspeed this Ninmander. It works and I win. So now we are up to Giovanni. Giovanni sends out Nibish and Girafrisk. I swap out to my Sansion, which was actually defeated in the last battle, but our rival did heal our Pokemon, so I thought it was only fair to sacrifice him now. Lucali comes out, and here we are. I'm going to start doing some serious damage. I use a Force Palm, doing about 20%, and a Citrus Berry heal comes in, giving me a little bit more health back. Now, I'm a little bit worried because Girafisk is doing Dragon Dances. I do a Force Palm, doing a little bit of damage, but not enough. I got very low, so I decided to swap out. I do not want to lose my Lucali. I send out my Gablax, my tank. Zen Headbutt doing very little damage. In fact, my Rough Skin basically gives back the damage that he gave me. I yawn Girafrisk. thinking that if I can get into a sleep, he won't be able to set up or damage us. I also yawn Mibbish, because why not? Unfortunately, Growl does go out, but that's okay. Our rival sends out Ungong, which is an unknown energy Gong, which looks really funny with that one singular eye. Ungong gets absolutely destroyed by a crunch and faints immediately, and I use a body slam and get out that disgusting Pokemon. And then our rival sends out Fraxnare, and I must say it's quite nice being on our team as opposed to the enemy. Dragonclaw doing decent damage, and we yawn Farrakhan. Slash unbelievably takes out the Fraxnare, but again, look at this, our Gablax just tanking shots and redirecting some of that damage back to them. Treenor comes out, as does a Megnium. Woodhammer actually does decent damage against our Gablax, and I was a little wary of that, so I decided to yawn it as well. I use Rest to gain some health and take myself all the way back up to 100%. I use Body Slam against Farrakhan, and I actually do get the Paralyze, which is fantastic. Woodhammer comes out and actually takes out Megnium. Damn. So our rival sends out Kofliger, easily taking out the Trenor. Farrakhan is now just the only Pokemon left of Giovanni, so it is up to us to take it out. And we do this very easily. One more Body Slam secures the win. And once again, Giovanni has bitten the dust. Haha. We pick up our Spoil, which is a Master Ball, and move on. It is time to battle Sabrina. She sends out this really cool dub fan, but unfortunately, we can't actually see it. It came out as a question mark, so we don't even know what it's going to look like. We can just assume that it would look cool. Nevertheless, I employ the same strategy that I've been doing for a little while and decide to use a Calm Mind over a Calm Mind over a Calm Mind, and now I am extremely powerful and extremely tanky. I use my Psychic to just one-shot most of these Pokemon, as well as a Hydro Pump, finding it is much more effective against some of them. At this point, Sabrina has nothing really to challenge us. Our Hydro Pumps and Psychics are doing so much damage and just eliminating all her Pokemon. And just like that, we've beaten Sabrina, taking home another gym badge. On Cinnabar Island, I had to go into the Pokemon Mansion and go find Blaine because for whatever reason he was hiding. I found him, pulled him out, and decided to kick his ass. Blaine sends out this really cool Suicune fusion, Uncoon. I employ the same technique I've been employing for most of this run. I use a Calm Mind once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. I use Calm Mind 6 times in total. And I really wasn't worried because he kept on trying to use Mirror Coat, and as I was not attacking him, I wasn't being hit. Okay, you saw that there. He used Mirror Coat and my Psychic didn't take him out, and I almost died. It was so scary. So I decided to Hydro Pump. It did so much damage. I do end up outspeeding Uncoon, and I send it home with a Hydro Pump. With 14 HP, I was feeling a bit scared, so I wanted to swap out. This Mantios does look fairly threatening, but an Air Slash doing no damage. In fact, my leftovers basically recovering most of the damage. I use a Belly Drum, knowing that I can take a hit, as well as being cut down by 50%. Now I have maxed out my attack. I rest to go all the way back up, I am super healthy, and I'm just hoping that I'll wake up very soon. I use a Body Slam, and as you can see, it takes out in one shot. Our Garlax is a freaking monster. Out comes this Mugar, so it is a Psychic, possibly Ghost type, but it wasn't Ghost because my Body Slam actually hit. Thank God the gamble paid off. Out comes his Galligar, which is actually so cool. It does a feint, but doesn't do that much damage. My Body Slam, however, does take it out in one shot, and again, I've just obtained another badge. I am on an absolute roll here. Now, it's time that I battle Zapmonkuno, so I need a Pokemon that can take care of the legendary birds. I get my Shieldude, which is a Shieldon and a Geodude fusion. I take it into the training and I evolve it a number of times, turning it into a Bastiodude, and Bastiodude turning into Bastoila. Bastoila decides to evolve one more time, giving me the final Bastolum. Now, with Bastolum, I feel very, very safe versing Zapmonkuno. I know my greatest threat is the Articuno, so my Bastiolum decides to do a Stone Edge on Articuno, taking it out immediately. A light screen comes out, but I'm not too worried because I'm using physical moves. I do the same tactic on the Moltres, surviving their Flamethrower and actually taking it out with the Stone Edge. Drillpeck does unfortunately come out taking out my Pokemon, but at the end of the day, I just needed him to take out 2 of the 3, making the rest of the fight easy peasy. With Zapdos being the only one there, I decided it's time to send out Garlax. I use a Yawn, knowing that he can't swap out, and that he will end up falling asleep. And now it was just up to me to do a Belly Drum and a Body Slam, taking it out in one shot. That was perhaps the easiest Zapmonkuno fight I have ever had. Now, the spoils. I capture Moltres. Moltres is easily snagged with a Master Ball, and I immediately go ahead and fuse my Moltres with the Executor, creating this really icky looking Executress. And now, back in Viridian City, I have to verse Giovanni, the 8th and final gym leader. I send out my brand new Pokemon and do a couple of air slashes, easily taking out his first Pokemon. Out comes Goldcross, a very scary looking Heracross Golbat. I use an air slash doing over 50%, but then a couple of full restores come out. So we just repeat this process until I use up all of Giovanni's full restores. Air Slash finally taking it out, and now we are up against Gardelade. Gardelade isn't actually a steel type, so that was unfortunate, so I go back to using Air Slash. Therefore it must be fighting. Giovanni takes back his Pokemon and sends out Sandchamp. I thought that was a very interesting move, but that was okay. My Citrus Berry gives me a little bit of heal, and Harvest actually enables me to use that berry once again. I use Petal Dance, doing significant damage to this ground type Pokemon. Out comes Gardelade once again, still hitting hard enough to take it out. Glischamp comes out next. Looks pretty cool, a little bit scary. If anybody's seen Jeepers Creepers, you might actually recognize the look of this Pokemon. Anyway, I send out my Garlax, knowing that it can take anything this Pokemon throws at me. Except another Sky Uppercut. Holy crap, I need to swap. So I throw out Charger, who does tank a Sky Uppercut, not even doing half my health. I do a Flamethrower and he uses an X-Scissor. I use one more Flamethrower and get the win, and just like that, we have defeated all 8 gym leaders. So onto Victory Cave, and I catch a Rhydon, and start moving my way all the way up to Indigo Plateau. Now in the Pokemon Center, it was time to change up my team. I decided to defuse all of them and start fusing new ones. So I fused my Gyarados and Kingdra, and Charizard and Gardevoir. Rhydon is fused with my Moltres, creating a very cool Pokemon. I mean, look at that horn, holy crap. Moldon looks amazing. Thinking that Moldon would be even more powerful evolved, I decided to go ahead and do that. But it's a tiny bit curses Molperia. So my final team going into the Elite Four is a Togelouis with Yawn, Protect, Crunch and Dragon Pulse. A Lucalee with Bone Rush, Quick Attack, Blaze Kick and Close Combat. Garlax with Yawn, Body Slam, Rest and Belly Drum. Our Charvois with Flame Burst, Psychic, Carmine and Flamethrower. And our Kingdos, Dragon Dance, Dragon Claw, Aqua Jet and an Ice Fang. And of course, Molperia, Megahorn, Flare Blitz, Stone Edge, and an Air Slash. And with that team, we are on to Lorelei. Lorelei sends out Wakeful, which I put to sleep immediately. I use Protect to make sure I can't be hurt on the turn that he is not asleep. As Wakeful is asleep, I send out my Kingdos, getting ready to do a setup. I use Dragon Dance. I use Dragon Dance again. And again! Wakeful woke up and decided to do a water move against us, doing very little damage. But as you can see, I am an absolute beast. I use Dragon Dance one more time. Dive doing very little against me, and here we go. Dragon Claw comes out doing just under half. But of course, this is a super tanky Pokemon we're up against, so I'm not actually that surprised. I Dragon Dance as he bounces. Luckily, we didn't get paralyzed, so I use an Aqua Jet to quickly take him out. Lorelei then sends out Goad. It's just a ball. I wonder how it gets around. You probably just have to push it. Anyway, my Aqua Jet immediately deletes it. Out comes this phenomenal looking Gardevoir, which is a Gardevoir and Rhyperior. But of course, Aqua Jet easily deletes it as well. Mammophidus comes out as well. Now this is one of the coolest Pokemon I have ever seen. Look at that ice on its back. So cool, but unfortunately looks is not everything as I take it out. Spiripados comes out and it looks pretty cool as well, but unfortunately Aqua Jet does the same thing. Lorelei had nothing on our Kingdos. Let's see if Bruno has anything different. He sends out a Lampsoul. Actually, Lapras and Absol look very good together. Now he actually used Safeguard, which protected him from the Yawn, which was actually quite unfortunate. But my Dragon Pulse doing decent damage, so I decide to keep on doing that, knowing that I can outlast him with his Hydro Pumps. Bruno does do a full restore, but then I do another Dragon Pulse and it does well over 50%. Looks like there's a bit of randomness there with the damage it's doing. One more Dragon Pulse and I know I will take the win. Lapsolve does fall down, out comes a Weedile. Terrifying looking Pokemon, I certainly would be running away. I use Protect just to see what kind of moves it would be doing, then I use a Dragon Pulse. Which when I hit him, it turns out that his Pokemon was actually a Flora. Out comes Kingdos. His Flare Blitz doing very little against my Kingdos, so I use a Dragon Dance. And you know what's going to happen? I'm going to set up hard on him once again. Flare Blitz doing very little damage, basically the same damage to him. And here I go with my Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet immediately taking it out. I am up against a Hytar, which I thought was a very cool looking Pokemon, but unfortunately it is Dragon typing for him, which means I am super effective with my Dragon Claw, and Aqua Jet can take it out. Mamosel comes out. It is a ground and ice type, so it's actually going to be quite weak against water. I use 2 Aqua Jets for an easy kill. Weedile comes right back out. Hello Weedile, want another go? I decide to chomp on it with my Ice Fang. This annoying Pokemon kept on doing Destiny Bond, so I had to keep on swapping out. But after all of that, it decides to do Explosion. Thank God I had Molperia in who could easily take an Explosion hit. But with that, we have defeated Bruno, bringing us on to Agatha. Agatha sends out one of my favourite Pokemon, I used it in the previous run, Starizard. Starizard does a rapid spin for God knows why, and we are able to use a Yawn, put it to sleep, and start the setup. And throw out Molperia. Stone Edge doing 100% of its health in a single hit. Out comes his amazing Blazcore. Blazcore doing Focus Energy for some reason, allowing my Stone Edge to take it out in one hit. Ariados comes out, a scary Gyarados and Ariados fusion. My Air Slash does decent damage and flinching it. Flare Blitz does take it out in a single hit. Molperia is showing off her skills. Out comes Noctvian, and it is super weak against my Stone Edge, so that's exactly what I do. I throw a Stone Edge and take it out in one hit. Garbdactyl comes out, which looks like a jet plane if I'm being perfectly honest. So I send out my Garlax, which can take most hits. Unfortunately, I am hit by a Toxic and therefore poisoned, but I do know that I will rest and remove that poison. With my Body Slam previously paralysing him, I was in a really good position. Gunk Shot not really doing all that much damage, so all I was doing was waiting for me to wake up and I was going to sit on Garbodactyl's face. And one more Body Slam, and it's a game. I have just defeated Agatha. Now I am onto the champion, Lance. Lance sends out Ketgonzi. I use Dragon Pulse, doing a little bit of damage, but then it turns into a Dragon type, which I thought was very fortunate because now my Dragon type moves will be super effective. Out comes a Duskpom, which is a very creepy monkey. I did a Yawn to put him to sleep, and then just used Dragon Pulse over and over again until it died. So Lance sends out his God Pokemon. I need to swap out immediately, and I send out Charvois. I get hit by a Double Edge, almost taking myself out, but luckily a Flamethrower is able to one-shot this Pokemon. Lance then sends out Chandrio, so I am going to make another swap, bringing out my big boy Garlex. Chandrio sets up a Light Screen, not that it really matters because I'm just going to physical him the entire time. I decide to go for a Belly Drum. Chandrio now asleep, I go for a Body Slam instead of a rest, being a little bit cheeky but quite confident it wouldn't wake up right away. Regiclane comes out and I'm thinking, do I rest or do I Body Slam? Again, I risk it all and I Body Slam. And you know what? I'm going to do it one more time too, because I'm just a risk taker. Which absolutely paid off because I've just defeated Lance, the champion. It is now time for the final battle of this run. It is me versus Ganon, the rival. He sends out Miloril, which is a Melodic and a Azurill. Of course, this typing is actually quite powerful being a Fairy Water, so I'm actually a little bit confused as to what to do. I didn't actually realise it was Fairy Water at the start, so I did do a close combat hoping it would do a bit more, but it did resist. So I decided I need to swap out very quickly. So I send out my Charvois. I decide to risk it and go for a Calm Mind, hoping I can do a setup. Unfortunately, a Hydro Pump does almost 80% of my health and I'm feeling the pressure. I do a Psychic and it doesn't do enough. Unfortunately, Hydro Pump does take me out. Goodbye Charvois, you were doing so well and I thank you for everything you did. Then I send out my Kingdos. Probably the best Pokemon on my team at this very moment. I use a Dragon Dance, giving myself a setup. I do it again. I have done my third Dragon Dance and now my attack and my speed are going off the charts. I do an Aqua Jet, which does about 40% of their damage. Milril does a Coil, giving itself some defense, which is not good because that's what I am using to attack him. A Full Restore comes out, giving him all back to full health. Now it is time to do Aqua Jet. Hydro Pump coming out, but again, it doesn't do that much. My Pokemon has quite good defenses. I do another Aqua Jet, another Aqua Jet, and another Aqua Jet. He actually swaps out into Forodon, which I thought was a strange move given that I can easily take it out, and I do with 2 Aqua Jets. Out comes Lilligatar, which is an amazing Lugia fusion. Fortunately, Dragonflor takes it out and I was feeling pretty good. Out comes a Fladrion, which will be destroyed immediately by my Pokemon. Out comes a Drifbluer. Drifbluer, again, a Fire type, so Aqua Jet would be really effective, and it is. Shadow Ball actually takes me out though, and I'm feeling so bad for losing Kingdos. He was my favourite Pokemon by miles. So I decided to send out Molperia. Molperia actually misses Stone Edge and takes a Shadow Ball, almost taking myself out. Luckily, my Stone Edge takes it out. Now, Miloril comes back out and I'm thinking, how do I beat this thing? I use a Mega Horn, which isn't that effective, but because Molperia is so strong, it does take it out. And finally, My rival's final Pokemon, Haxknight, has appeared. Haxknight uses Dragon Pulse, deleting Molperia. I only have 3 Pokemon left, so it is getting a little tense. I send out my Tokulus, my Pokemon that I have created specifically to take on Haxknight this entire run. I use a Yawn, putting it to sleep, and then go ahead and start the Dragon Pulse. If he doesn't wake up this turn, I win. He didn't wake up. That's his health gone. I won! I have defeated our rival. I have defeated Lance. I have defeated all 8 gym leaders. I am the winner of this run. Okay, look, if you guys enjoyed this video, please, I know I said it in the beginning, please like and subscribe. Even comment down below. Everything you do to engage with me helps the YouTube algorithm, which helps push my videos out to more people, which again encourages me to make more content. Just let me know down in the comments, like, what kind of runs have you been doing? What are the coolest fusions that you've seen? And what kind of runs should I do next? I'm open to suggestions. Alright, y'all. See you later.